Okay, so I want to welcome all our listeners again to this continuing sessions of Interphex Live, the virtual version, just to put everybody back to recollection, which I find people sometimes don't recall. Interphex Live actually takes place during the Interphex show in New York, and this is done in a environment which is inside the Crystal Palace at the Javits Center. So customarily, we sit here with maybe 50 or 100 people sitting in front of us, and the panel sits around, sort of like something you'd see at a Tonight Show. So, but seeing that we can't do that, and but we felt it imperative that the folks at Interphex felt it was imperative that the information is so key that we had to get it out to all of the folks out there in the industry. So today's the topic today will be using contact lenses as a drug delivery system. And just for everybody at Interphex, we try to keep current, new technologies, new approaches, and as our attendees know, people come to Interphex to identify a technology, talk to the experts, and ultimately set up a acquisition or acquiring of whatever equipment or techniques or technology they have. So in that, I'd like to introduce our panelists today. We have Chris Adams with Glint. He is the in charge of Glint Pharmaceuticals. That is the firm which is the pioneers in this area. In addition, we have Anuj, who's a professor in chemical and biological engineering at Colorado School of Mines. He wore his shirt, so I didn't forget that. Craig Walker is an old friend of mine and somebody I've worked with for quite some time. And Craig is the managing director and owner of MedTec Consulting. So we're going to be talking about contact lenses as a drug delivery system. I mean, everybody thinks they know contact lenses. So why don't we start off, Chris, and educate them to what Glint foresees.
So thanks for having us. Glint Pharmaceuticals was started based on the contact lens drug delivery technology that was invented by Dr. Anuj Chauhan, who's on this call as well. And he's going to talk some more about the details of the technology. One of the key benefits of the technology is that because the contact lens is sitting on your eye, we can more effectively deliver a dose of the medicine to your eye surface and treat a variety of eye-related diseases. And because it's sitting on your eye as part of the contact lens device itself, we're going to increase patient compliance for drug delivery and increase their prescription efficiency as well. So we think this device is going to help a number of patients in the compliance area as well as delivering a more efficient amount of drug to the eye surface. Just a fun fact, right now, patient compliance for eye drops is less than 50%. So we think we're going to increase that significantly and help a number of patients. And Anuj, why don't you talk about some of the details of the technology?
Yeah, thanks for giving us this opportunity. I think it would have been more fun to be sitting in Javits Center, but I suppose this will have to do. So yeah, like Chris said, I think contact lenses are really great devices for delivering drugs to cornea. And obviously we are competing against eye drops. All of you have delivered drugs by eye drops. You might be wondering, why should you switch from eye drops to contact lenses? So when you put drugs by eye drops, what happens is most of the drug doesn't really go where it's needed. So, you know, if you imagine you're putting an eye drop, then a lot of the eye drop simply just goes down your cheek, you know, because the volume of eye drop is more than the volume of of how much fluid can be accommodated here. Then what happens is there's a membrane behind the eyelid called conjunctiva. So a lot of the drug goes through the conjunctiva and then it ends up in the blood. Also, what happens is every time you're blinking, the tears from your eyes are ending up in the nose, and that again takes some drug, and again eventually it ends up in the blood. So what data shows is, our data as well as data in literature, that when you're using an eye drop, only about 1 to 2%, and in very few cases, maybe 5% of the drug makes it to the target tissue. With a contact lens, because as Chris said, it's just a great location. It is sitting right on cornea, and so about 50% of the drug makes it. So the benefit of that is, first of all, there are less side effects because there's less drug going into the blood. But the other really big benefit is that because more drug is going into the cornea, you may have to deliver it less frequently. Now, let me give you an example. There's a disease called cystinosis, which we are focusing on. It's an orphan indication. Patients have to deliver drugs every hour, every day for their entire lives. And just too tedious, very difficult to be compliant with something like that. With a contact lens, because it sits on the eye, you only need to use one contact lens each day. And I can give you many such examples. So, but the bottom line is, it just delivers more drug to the tissue. Therefore, you will need less frequency, there'll be better efficacy and better compliance.
So, Craig, what are the main challenges in developing this contact lens? It sounds to me like it's a great idea, but give us some insight based on your vast experience in this area.
So I've had 20 plus years in the contact lens business, and as you know, the polymer and the material is very, very important for the contact lens. So getting a drug to sustain similar to like a drug patch where you have some kind of release curve is not an easy thing to do, where you're messing with the chemistry and all the other performance aspects of contact lens. So it's a big challenge, and getting a release curve over time is, we're going to talk about that a little bit later, but that's one of the big challenges. Most of the work that I've been exposed to is like a burst. You have a drug along with the contact lens and you get a burst effect, very similar to what Anuj was talking about, but to getting in a release curve is a serious challenge. And Anuj, I think you're going to talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, sure. So I can add something to that. So as I think Craig said, the big challenge is to make the drug come out at the right rate. And in fact, if you go in literature, you will see that the idea, as Russ said, I mean, the idea is great, and the idea has been great for decades, because initially something like this was tried as early as 1970s, and that's one of the questions we frequently get asked. That people have been trying this for decades. Why was it not successful? And the reason is because it's a challenging problem. It's a challenging problem because contact lens needs to have many different design parameters that are already set. It needs to have certain thickness, it needs to have oxygen permeability, it needs to have ion permeability, it needs to have surface lubricity. So you really don't want to sacrifice any of those parameters, because if you sacrifice that, it will not be a good contact lens. But yet you want to release the drug very slowly. Because if you take a commercial contact lens, because it is so thin, the drug comes out very, very quickly. So the big challenge in the field has been, how do you retain all the good properties of a contact lens, but still be able to deliver drug at a controlled rate for extended periods of time?
So what I'm hearing is, we're talking, I understand where, the formation of the lens and stuff that, Craig and I are familiar with, but why don't we get into some of your technology here? I mean, how do we get this so that we get it into a delivery mechanism or delivery system? I think, is that a good place to keep going, Anuj?
Yeah, I think so, and I think I can take that question. So our technology is what we call it a barrier technology, and the idea behind a barrier technology is, as I said in my previous answer about challenges, that contact lens is very thin. It's only about 100 microns thick, and so if you put a drug molecule in there, just by the diffusion, it comes out in a matter of an hour. So on its own, it comes out too fast. So the idea that we have is a very simple idea. And that is, what if you create barriers in the path? So I give, just for simplicity, I give the example of driving in Manhattan, where if there is no traffic jam, you could barely go from the north side to the south side, I don't know, in 30 minutes. But because of the traffic jams, because you have barriers, it takes hours. So it's the same idea. We create barriers in our contact lens, and the drug has to go around the barriers. Now, of course, the challenge is that you want to create these barriers, but you still want to be able to see through the lens. And that's where the barriers have to be nano-sized, because if they're extremely so nanometer is 10 to the power minus 9 meter. It's a very small dimension. So if you are able to make these barriers to be very small, then they don't scatter visible light. So the lens remains transparent, but yet the drug molecules get blocked and the drug molecules go around it. So our invention was that we figured out that if you load the contact lens with vitamin E, and vitamin E is a great molecule because it's really a very biocompatible molecule. It's good for your eyes, actually, because it's an antioxidant. So our invention is that if you impregnate silicone hydrogel contact lenses, which are really the best lenses out there because they're very high oxygen decay, they're extended wear materials, these are just the perfect contact lenses. Many contact lenses currently in the market are silicone hydrogels. So our technology, our invention, and our patent is that if you impregnate these silicone hydrogel contact lenses with vitamin E, they form these nano-sized barriers everywhere in the lens. You can't see it with naked eye, so the lens is transparent, but the drug has to go around these. And that's what increases the release time. So now there are a lot of very interesting aspects to this technology, which makes it very, very, very compelling. So one of the compelling aspects of this is that this works for many different drugs. Because it is a barrier, almost every drug has to go around the barrier. If you're going around a traffic jam, it doesn't matter what kind of car you drive. So therefore, it works for many, many different drugs. And that's a very compelling idea because we don't have to reinvent the wheel every time we design a new drug. Another great aspect of this technology is that we can tune it to get whatever release duration you want. Because by putting in different amounts of vitamin E, we can essentially get whatever release duration you want. The third really compelling idea, the compelling part of this technology is that we can take a pre-made commercial contact lenses that are already in the market, they're already approved, people are already wearing it. We can take that contact lens and we can impregnate it with vitamin E in a very simple process that we have developed. We have our company has already scaled it up. And in that simple process, we can convert a contact lens that releases the drug in a burst to a contact lens that releases the drug very slowly over a day, over 15 days, over a month. So because of those three compelling aspects, we believe that it's a very revolutionary technology.
That's a very interesting approach. I mean, as you guys know and know, even in the small molecule area, the oral area, a standardized platform that's the nirvana. If everybody could just plug it in and go. Having said that, the fact that we're looking at many different types of drugs, so let me turn it over to Chris. I mean, what disease states are you going after, Chris?
Yeah, I'll start and I'll let Chris continue this. The first ones we're going after are the glaucoma, the antibiotic, and the cystinosis. So those are the three areas we go. But we have a portfolio that we've looked at, like Anuj said, small molecule, any drug. We could go after different states, but those are kind of the main disease states we're starting off with. And Chris, do you want to add to that?
So as Anuj and Craig just mentioned, our technology is broad-based and allows us to target a variety of ocular diseases or eye diseases. We already have clinical studies and clinical data for glaucoma, delivery of glaucoma drug to the eye surface. Most patients take multiple glaucoma patients once or twice a day, and patient compliance with glaucoma is pretty low. So if we can affect the ability of patients to increase their compliance in glaucoma, we can help prevent blindness in a certain percentage of patients. On the cystinosis front, where Anuj mentioned these patients have to take a drop of the cystinosis drug 1 hour every day for the rest of their life, every hour every day for the rest of their life, the compliance with that is pretty low, as you can imagine. You can imagine a teenager who's 15 to 17 taking an eye drop every hour every day for the rest of their life. They're just not going to do it. As a result, you get significant side effects from not taking the drug, and that increases the chances of a person will have eye damage, permanent eye damage, or even in some cases lead to blindness. And then on the antibiotic lens front, we have the ability to treat a variety of ocular wounds, from infection to post-surgical applications to injury to the eye. So our technology is broad-based, and we're taking a off-the-shelf contact lens, combining it with an approved pharmaceutical to create a product that can treat many diseases.
I find this a lot of these disease states, at least from my where I come from in pharmacy, is they refer to them as being treated with polypharmacy. In other words, multiple medications. So, Anju, let me pose this question. So, if I'm going to be prescribed lantinoprost or zolamide, 2 or 3 in a glaucoma, how do you deal with that? Do you wear multiple contacts, or how do you deal with that?
Yeah, great question, Russ. And I think in my previous answer, when I was talking about technology, like I mentioned, the great thing about the technology, it works for many different drugs. And because it works for many different drugs, you can also actually put the same drugs in the same contact lens. So it can actually, we have already, in fact, our clinical study was done in a lens that released 2 drugs. It was a glaucoma treatment, and we were releasing timolol, which is a very well-known drug, and we were also releasing dorzolamide. And we showed that we can release the 2 drugs simultaneously. We can get very good IOP reduction. Currently, we also have another lens that we have designed, and that is for, as Chris mentioned, what we call post-surgical therapy. So let's say you have cataract surgery, and after cataract surgery, you have to put so many different eye drops in the eye. In fact, my mother, went through cataract surgery just about a year back, and it was difficult for her. She's a little bit on the older side, and then she had to put multiple drops very frequently. So again, we have developed a contact lens that releases 3 drugs simultaneously. We release a dexamethasone, which is a steroid. We release ketorolac for painkiller, and we also release levofloxacin, which is an antibiotic. So we can release all those 3 drugs simultaneously at a controlled rate for about 3 to 4 days, which we believe is just a perfect cocktail therapy for post-surgical intervention. So yeah, it's a great question, and the answer really is that there is no limit to how many drugs in principle we can combine. We have developed many different tricks. So we can combine hydrophilic drugs, we can combine hydrophobic drugs, we can combine large molecule, small molecule. So our goal is to be able to be designing a system where the patient will need only one lens, irrespective of how many drugs that patient needs.
Well, I wish I had known. Wish you guys were around when I had my cataracts done. It was quite. It was a lot of drops, a lot of misses. Yeah, I get it. But again, just to be clear, we're talking about putting multiple compounds, multiple drugs into the same lens. So the patient puts in a device. Is that correct?
Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
All right. So, and how do you this is a little off topic, but are these things custom? These must be custom made practically. Is that the way it works, or what do you?
Yeah, I mean, it would depend upon the indication, right? Some indications, like as we said, talked about post-cataract, yeah. It doesn't have to be custom made because, a lot of patients do the same therapy. But if there is a very, very specific cocktail of drugs that is very patient specific, in principle, it have to be custom made. Now, if you're talking about custom made from the perspective of the prescription or from the perspective of contact lens fitting, so that's a slightly different question. So, contact lenses, if you wear contact lenses, they come in several different base curves. Base curve is what is called essentially that tells you how well it fits on the cornea. So our product will be coming in a few different base curves. And so the doctor can essentially use whatever base curve that fits the eye very well. It could also come with prescription or without prescription. So for instance, I actually need my glasses. So I could have contact lenses that correct my vision. If a patient doesn't need correction, then we could just make it a 0 power, in which case this will not affect their vision.
But I assume that it sounds to me like you're pretty far along. This delivery system, I think, has been pretty well fine-tuned. So based on that, I assume you've got a pretty good host of clinical data then.
Yeah, I think I can talk about that. So we have clinical. I think I can talk about what we already have, and then maybe I'll pass it on to Chris for maybe talking about what we're planning to do in future, because we have quite a few studies lined up. So yeah, we started with glaucoma. Glaucoma was our first indication, and the reason we started with that because as you can imagine that it's just a very large population, and also not just this large population, patients who have glaucoma, it's not very well managed with eye drops. In fact, there's a hypothesis that sometimes when you take medication during the day, your pressure is high, is controlled, but at night, because there's no more medication, the pressure might be high, and that could potentially actually lead to the disease progressing. So that's why we thought glaucoma was just a perfect target for us. So there we have considerable animal data and some human data as well, and we have shown that in the clinical study, something very, very interesting. We initially observed this in animal studies, but now we are very happy to report that we are seeing the same behavior in humans. And that behavior is that if you wear these contact lenses that we have developed for just 2 days, you actually get IOP reduction for considerably longer period of time. So, and that's, again, it's a very compelling, because in that case, what the patient will have to do is, they put a contact lens on, let's say for 2 days. After that, they take the contact lens off, and they have to do nothing for the next 5 to 7 days. So that's what we are observing in our clinical trial, and that's our focus, to maybe design a therapy for patients where the patients will not have to wear a contact lens every day. So that's our current study on glaucoma, and we have some clinical data there. Chris, do you want to talk about the studies that we are planning?
Yeah, so just to give you and others who may be watching this some context, and maybe asking how big are the markets that we're going after for these particular eye diseases. So in the United States, there are approximately 3 million people who have glaucoma and are taking glaucoma meds today. So that's a pretty significant market. In Europe and the rest of the developed world, you add approximately 6 million more people, and that's almost 10 million people worldwide in the developed countries. So that's a pretty significant market for us. On the antibiotic lens, which would treat wounds, post-surgical applications, and infections, there are about 4 million people in the United States who suffer from those ocular indications every year, and approximately 12 million worldwide in Europe, Japan, and other parts of the developed world. So they're pretty big markets. And on the cystinosis front, as Anuj mentioned, it is an orphan drug indication, and there are about 500 people in the United States who have cystinosis, and about 2,000 in Europe. And so those are the markets that we're going after, and those folks are looking for a solution to make their eye diseases better and to have some of these problems go away.
So let me ask you this question. I mean, sounds to me like you've got a lot of data, you got a product, you got a platform. So you know, what do you expect? You know, how long? What do you expect to have your products available? I mean, when are we gonna hit the ground here? So Craig, yeah, go ahead.
I'll take that one. We're excited because just recently we've really kind of nailed down the supply chain. So like Anuj mentioned, we have a supply of vitamin E lenses. We have partnerships with compounding pharmacies that we're going through right now. One starting production on Monday, and we have test methods ironed out. We have partnerships with different testing labs on sterility and shelf life and potency. So we're in the works, and the great news, that's also setting us up for the clinical runs with the various drugs. Therefore, we'll start getting voice of customer, not only from the doctors, but the assistants in the office, and obviously the patients. So we're thinking on the short term, kind of the next two months, we could have some products up and available for the public, and probably full some supply by the end of the year, in that kind of time frame. We're talking 2020.
That's pretty impressive. That's a pretty novel approach to getting to market. As you and I both know, I mean, usually you and I talk in years, not days or months. That's fabulous. That's fabulous. Let me ask the question which nobody usually likes to ask, and I think Chris, based on what we've been talking about, sounds to me like I should address it to you. And I think the question is really going to come down to is, what about cost? How expensive is this all going to be?
Yeah, so we get that question a lot. People always want to know how much will it cost. And from our point of view, we don't have a firm price yet, but it's not going to be any more expensive than current eye drop costs. So it's going to be priced in line with what people are paying for the current eye drop medications. So we're going to add a superior delivery system, increased compliance and convenience, and price it competitively with the current drugs already in the marketplace. So we think that combined is a winning combination.
So let me make sure I'm clear then. So in other words, in your classic example of glaucoma, where it would be multiple medication, yeah, it's competitive with that.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. So are they going to be able to correct? Are they corrective lenses, Chris? I mean, Craig. So let me ask you this. Getting back to our discussion before, are they corrective lenses, or can they be, or what is your plan there?
Yeah, so Anuj mentioned it a little bit before, and since we're going to have a commercially available contact lens, a silicone hydrogel, you can pretty well fit it per what's available in the market today. Of course, some cases, it depends on what the disease state is. Something that's a bandage lens, you could do a plano, but if you're doing an anti-allergy or something like that, you want daily relief from something, then you could get the correct script, or wear, like Anuj mentioned, you wear a plano and wear your spectacles on top of it. So in theory, you could have anything available that's out there right now.
So how long, okay, so the other one question that we had talked about, and Anuj, let's start get back to where you were. I mean, essentially what we're talking about is it's like a matrix system for delivery.
Mhm.
And, so let me ask you this, how long will the patients have to wear these? I mean,
Yeah, great question. And the answer really is it will depend upon indication. So depending upon different diseases, the wear duration will be different. It will also depend on the patients. Like with contact lenses, you have lenses that can be worn daily. They're called daily disposables. There are contact lenses that can be worn for 15 days, and patients make their choice. Some patients don't like to sleep in them. Some patients don't mind sleeping in them. Some doctors don't recommend you sleep in them. So there are really different choices available for contact lenses. And similarly, our systems would also be amenable to different designs. So for disease like cystinosis, we think the best solution out there will be a daily disposable contact lens that the patients will wear only for about 4 to 5 hours each day. They could sleep in them if that's what they choose to do. For some other diseases like glaucoma, it might be better to wear them continuously for maybe 2 days. And then, as we said, maybe take the lens off, not wear anything for the rest of the week. Or in some cases, maybe wear the lens for 15 days. It'll depend upon what drugs we are using, whether you want to deliver the drug continuously over 15 days, or you're just, as I said, deliver over 2 days and then use the depot that we create. For some other diseases like glaucoma, post-cataract therapy, where you typically have to deliver drops for about 1 week, it might be best to just design a lens that you can wear continuously for 1 week. So really, it will depend upon the disease, and it will also depend on the patients and the doctor. But with our technology, we can essentially adapt it. And again, I think that's really the strength of what we are trying to develop. As Russ, you said, it's a platform technology, and we can adapt it to essentially whatever the target is.
I find the technology extremely interesting, simply because it's flexibility, it's acceptance. I think that's the other key. Craig and I'm sure Anjo, you guys look old enough to remember the attempts. I don't think I need to remind everybody of the OcuCert attempt at this,
Yes.
which was, that. And Craig, I'm just wondering. I think to me, it's always good. I mean, that did not work, and the reason it did not, maybe we should just touch on that a little bit. And I realize, this may be this is a Russ Somma question, but it seems to me you guys are taking a much better path. I mean, when you compare the two technologies, what do you think?
It's definitely from an ease of use and ease of application. A contact lens is obviously a lot easier. For you that aren't familiar with the OcuCert, it would fit actually a piece of polymer like a half moon that fit underneath your eyelid, and then it would have a drug release profile. But that is not normal. Today with all the baby boomers like me, that I grew up with contact lenses since the 80s. So something like putting a contact lens is not foreign to me. Where some of these other devices, like the OcuCert, is something very unusual and not common like a contact lens.
And yeah, if I could add to that, so the OcuCert, as Craig said, is basically goes in there. So the amount of drug that goes to cornea is actually not going to be very high with OcuCert, because you still have all those problems. You still have drug getting out of it and going into the conjunctiva, getting into the nose. But because the contact lens is on the cornea, the amount of drug that can be delivered to the cornea with the contact lens is actually even far superior to OcuCert. And of course, as Craig mentioned, that if you put something in the fornix and you're blinking, it's possible the stuff will just come off. And with the contact lens, you obviously don't have that problem, because the contact lenses fit so nicely. And also, OcuCert in some cases have the problem of leakage. So if it breaks, you can leak a lot of the drug out. We don't have that problem, because in our case, it's a system where the drug is everywhere. It's not a reservoir where if you develop a crack, the drug comes out very quickly. Because it's distributed everywhere in the matrix, you don't have that problem of toxicity if all the drug comes out. So for those reasons, and also from the commercialization manufacturing point of view, making contact lenses today is easy, as many of you would already know. Many companies make millions of these. And so yeah, from the commercialization manufacturing point of view, also, I think a contact lens-based device is actually easier and less expensive to make.
And I think the other piece is this, and I think this is where you guys have hit the nail on the head. I mean, you're not going to make contact lenses. That is something you source.
Mhm.
So the big hurdle is done. I mean, you know, that piece, and that to me is breakthrough technology. And for the so that I understand, Anuj, these can be corrective or non-corrective, correct?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, they could have whatever. Basically, a contact lens that you normally use, we could put the drugs in exactly the same contact lens. So really, if you're already using a contact lens, this is an absolute no-brainer because you're already using a lens. And you know, this is one thing that we haven't really discussed. If you're using a lens, you actually can't use eye drops. You'll have to take the lens off. And so normally it's recommended that you just don't wear contact lenses. And so that's a pain for patients or subjects who normally wear contacts because they can't do it when they're being treated. So in this case, you don't have that problem. Another thing which I think is that after many surgeries, like actually even after glaucoma, not sorry, after glaucoma, but after cataract, sometimes you put a bandage lens anyway to protect the eye. So in that case, what's happening is you're putting a bandage lens anyway, and then on top of that, you're putting eye drops. That's what it's done currently. And as we were talking earlier, when you put an eye drop, not a whole lot of drug goes to the cornea. Now you're putting a eye drop on top of a bandage lens. So again, not a whole lot of drug is going into the cornea. So in that case, you're putting eye drops, you're putting a contact lens. All we're doing is marrying the two together. So therefore, you can see it's just, again, such a simple and elegant solution to the problem.
So Chris, let me ask you this. I mean, obviously with the cataract surgery, so the anti-inflammatory, not the anti-inflammatory, but the steroids such as dexamethasone, these are all in your list of to-dos, correct?
That's correct.
That's incredible. Okay, so let's get back to Craig. Why don't we talk, and again, availability, just so I understand it, the availability we're talking about within 2 months? What do you think?
Yeah, 2 months in the sense of a small volume. Now, to get some volume going, it's going to be more towards the end of the year.
Right.
And we're just as Anuj was saying, contact lenses are made in the millions. This isn't, our business model's not to the millions yet. That'll be a few years out, but we'll have some product available here coming up. So like I said, we finally have the supply chain kind of ironed out, and it's turning live as we speak.
Okay, so, and the other advantage is, I think, Anuj, what that you had brought up that I find interesting. Very rarely do we use a component. Well, I shouldn't say very rarely, but we usually, when we use components, when we make pharmaceuticals or platforms, one of the components are not all the components add to the benefit of the treatment. In this case, you were saying vitamin E is a big plus too.
Yeah, actually, because vitamin E is good inside the lens because vitamin E blocks UV light. And obviously, you know, UV light, as we all know, is not good for your eyes because it's actually implicated in potentially causing cataract. So it also has other benefits. It actually, because it's an antioxidant, sometimes it protects the drugs. There are a lot of drugs on the market that, you know, actually degrade over time. But because vitamin E is an antioxidant, it's also blocking UV light. What we have observed is by loading the drug in a contact lens with vitamin E, we actually increase the stability. Now, also, vitamin E is actually great for the eyes. So if a little bit of vitamin E gets out of the contact lens into the eye, that's a good thing. Although because vitamin E is practically insoluble in tears, the amount of vitamin E that we are delivering right now is small. But if we want to deliver vitamin E, we can certainly also do that. So yes, vitamin E is actually, it's just great because it's very biocompatible and adds a lot of other properties to the contact lenses that are good for you.
And just to add to that, I'd like to add to that. The other part is there's no preservatives. So it's a single use. A lot of drugs have preservatives in with it, and that's sometimes not good for the eye. You get an allergic reaction. So these are going to be preservative free.
Yeah, that's a great point actually, because a lot of patients, as you know, that BA benzoyl chloride is a very common preservative, and it is in 70% of the formulations, and it's well known that BAK causes damage to your eyes. So by removing BAK from the formulations, I think that is another very, very big plus for our device.
And if I can just add, because these are single-use devices, essentially open up the package for each lens for each time that you want to use it, we significantly reduce infection caused by dirty solutions that you're putting on your eye.
Or
so it's a great infection control methodology as well.
Right. We're tapping the end of the bottle on your eye by accident and get some infections. Yeah, there's single use has some huge advantage.
Well, I
And
think
actually, on the same lines, as you're talking about this issue, so we already talked about cystinosis, which is a disease where you have to deliver eye drops every hour. Now, it turns out that the drops that you deliver, it's called cysteamine, it's a very unstable molecule because it can get oxidized very easily. So what you have to do is currently when patients receive this, they receive it frozen. It's frozen, it comes in these big boxes. And then yes, as soon as you get it, you have to put it in a freezer. And then before you use it, you have to, of course, unfreeze it. And then you have to use it within a very short period of time. So normally I think it's about 7 to 10 days. And the reason because it degrades very fast. So we don't have that problem with contact lenses because we are packaging it in a way that we prevent oxygen from going in. So our lenses are very stable. So we don't have to ship them frozen. And also because it's a single use, once you open the package, you just put it in the eye and you're done. And next you open the next package. So so overall, yeah, we have all these other benefits as well.
Well, that's very I mean, supply chain is always a tough one, and cold chain is even worse. So it sounds to me, I mean, you guys are about to, you know, crack the code on that one, which is great. So if I was just to ask, you know, and we'll go around the room, I mean, you know, where do you see your technology going? I mean, sounds to me like it's got pretty much endless. So what we'll do is we could start, and whoever wants to lead off, Craig or whoever. Where do you see it going? You got a list.
Well, I'll take the first part of this. So we see the technology starting off in 2020 with the finishing up or continuing with our glaucoma studies and delivering to the marketplace an antibiotic lens for infection control. And then after that, we will target continue to target glaucoma in our further studies, and then cystinosis for the rare disease that we've been talking about, and then continue to expand our options and other opportunities in the marketplace. Craig?
Yeah, I mean, after that, it's kind of endless. So obviously, I'm a little concerned on the supply chain because then you can keep on going down the pathway of different disease states. And then we'll have to have secure more compounding pharmacies or contract manufacturing or business partners to make it more in volume. But that's where we're probably going to start.
Yes, I can add a couple of other things from my perspective. I think certainly, as we talked about the 3-drug therapy for post-cataract, post-surgical interventions, I think that's a very compelling idea because, as I said earlier, there you're already wearing a bandage contact lens. So even that aspect is not new. And you are putting eye drops on top. So really all we are doing is we're combining the two. So I think the 3-drug lens that we have developed, that I think is definitely in our agenda of things to get to the patients. Also, dry eye is of course a very, very big market, and we have a couple of different molecules that we are considering from releasing from contact lens for dry eye therapy. And another very interesting idea is for using contact lenses to deliver potentially drug to the back of the eye. So right now, front of the eye, you have eye drops. For the back of the eye, currently what you do is you put intravitreal injections. You actually go right to the eyeball. And had a need for intravitreal injections, but I hope we'll never need that because it just seems too painful. I mean, I don't like people touching my eyes, and for somebody to give an injection into the eye, it just seems too dreadful. So with the contact lens, because the contact lens is sitting on the cornea, and there is some evidence in literature that we can deliver drug to the back of the eye. So that's certainly another possibility long term. So those are some of the ideas that I think I would like to pursue in the next couple of years.
So you want to talk a little bit about what we were passing around in the email this morning about my little experiment?
Yeah. So Chris, you want to mention that?
We have a stealth project that's going to be announced at some point in the near future. But just to say that it has to do with infection control and using off-the-shelf components to treat a very significant problem in the ocular world right now, or in the world at large, I should say.
Okay.
We always have something up our sleeve as a startup company.
I think I get the picture. Okay, great. Well, I want to thank you guys. I mean, seems to me that you know, sky's the limit here. So, and I couldn't be more happy with the where you're at. I mean, I have to give you a lot of credit. I mean, you know, and again, I don't mean to keep saying Craig, but Craig and I have been down the road a couple of times on a few things, and you guys clearly you clearly took the right path as opposed to a few other paths I've been down. So with that, I want to thank Craig, Chris, Anju. I want to thank you guys very much and wish you all the luck.